Nothing in this podcast is intended as investment advice, and the people in this podcast may hold positions in the stocks they talk about. Do not buy any investment based solely on a tip or recommendation. Please do your own research.
Hello and welcome to the Midweek Takeaway. Today we're joined by John Regan, CEO of Electric Guitar, ticker LEG. Welcome, John.
Thank you very much, Phil.
Absolutely, yeah. So obviously the news on Friday, the recent listing on London's AIM market via reverse takeover of 3 Radical Limited. This strategic move comes at a time when the marketing industry faces significant shifts due to privacy laws, the rise of AI and evolving consumer expectations for personalization. 3 Radical's innovative software as a service platform, Voco, fits into Electric Guitar's vision. Voco is designed to engage customers directly through interactive digital experiences, allowing companies to gather first-party data essential for tailored marketing and enhanced customer experiences. We'll explore here how this integration aligns with their broader strategy to leverage disruptions in the marketing landscape and drive future growth through further acquisitions. Sounds exciting, John. Please tell us more.
Well, yeah, I mean, this has been quite a journey for us. We listed Electric Guitar as a SPAC way back in January 2022, so not much past the end of the pandemic, actually. And what we've been doing over the past 18 months or so is, well, I suppose in effect, a bit of a beauty parade. We've been identifying our first acquisition, which is part of a strategy to build this globally scaled business focused around first-party data. And I'll explain a bit what that really is in a minute. But the strategy is to build this globally scaled business focused around first-party data. So as Electric Guitar, we're going to buy scale. We're going to buy ourselves into vertical markets, into global marketplaces, and of course bring in expertise, complementary technology and complementary talent. So that's the strategy behind Electric Guitar. And as you said, the reason we're doing it is there is right now happening a structural change in digital advertising, and that's the area we're exploiting. And you can get buried in the technicalities of that structural change, but actually it's the point about advertising is it's about communicating with humans. So actually there is quite a human element to this. And it's quite simply this. Historically, what has happened, you've probably heard the phrase, Phil, if you're not paying for the product, you are the product. Historically, what has happened is us as consumers of the internet, we've used all of these free services like Facebook and now Instagram and TikTok and Google search and all of those things and not paid for them. And the way those businesses have monetized themselves is they've had various different mechanisms to track what we're doing in different ways. So they might be tracking your browser or your search history, also things that you input into websites as well. And this is an absolutely massive industry that does this. And what they do with that data is they sell it to advertisers who analyze it and work out the appropriate products to target you with. And you've probably seen, these adverts, annoying adverts that seem to follow you around the internet. That's how they do it. They decide this is something you're going to buy, and they keep chucking mud at that wall until you finally cave in and buy it. Eventually they're in the right place at the right time and you buy. And that works. Everyone says they don't feel like it does work for them, but actually it does. It makes billions and billions of pounds. That marketplace I've just described was worth over $800 billion last year in trading that data. That data that I've just described there, that harvested data that kind of happens in the shadows, that's called third-party data. And it's third-party because there's a third party in control of it. They're reselling it. So they're reselling information about you without you really knowing about it. Technically, you did agree to it when you click that cookie commission box without thinking about it.
You read through about 49 pages of terms and conditions that you didn't actually understand and said, yeah, I agree to those privacy laws.
Yeah, exactly right. It's even worse than that. I'm an expert in this space, and when I click agree, I couldn't tell you where my data's going. Every second, there are a million auctions take place to auction out data. Every second, a million auctions. There's no way that as a consumer, we're informed about that, really. But that is the grey area that marketing is in. Obviously, legislation has come in to try and prevent that. And actually, that's having a slow effect. We've seen some big fines come along and that sort of thing. There is a greater awareness amongst consumers about this as well. I mean, if you remember the Cambridge Analytica scandal, there was a great big fuss about that. But the reality is, as consumers, we're not really in a position to act at the moment. Ask around. Very few people have come off Instagram.
So, John, just tell us why that legislation is coming in then to sort of like make it, the shift. What is the reason why they're trying to outlaw this harvesting of third-party data?
The reason they're trying to outlaw it is it's a fundamental belief that if you are sharing information about you or me, we should know about it. We should be able to control that. And that's the underpinning thing. The legislation is not new. It came in across Europe with GDPR in 2018. It's rolling out across the world now. Obviously, California always advanced in the US. They were the first, but that law is likely to become federalized in the US. Across APAC also, even in China, there are privacy laws which are coming into place, which are all very, very similar. And it's all based on this fundamental concern as we become more digital, as we have a bigger and bigger data footprint, and our data footprint is huge now. Every time you pick up a mobile device, even just by moving it, you leave data behind. It's absolutely fundamental that we have got visibility and control over that. So that's what's driving. However, the impact on that big ecosystem, which is absolutely massive, has been quite slow, but it's started to speed up now. And one of the most significant things which has sped it up is the response of the tech companies which are reselling that data. Meta and Microsoft and Amazon and Apple, all those guys making a fortune from it. But they're also, A, concerned about potential fines, B, concerned about potential consumer exposure. It would be a scandal if Apple were in the same sort of situation as Cambridge Analytica or Amazon or any of those guys. So they're concerned about that. But see, quite frankly, it looks a little bit self-serving because by what they are doing is limiting advertisers' access to what used to be pretty ubiquitous and very cheap data. And by doing so, they're making it harder for advertisers to target their consumers effectively. So now those tech companies know more about consumers and advertisers than themselves. So there's a big exposure in that circumstance. And of course, if it's harder to target these businesses, which are optimized to generate the maximum revenue from that type of data, those businesses are going to make more money from it, and advertisers exposed. And worse than that, with AI coming in now, there's a fundamental thing about AI, which is we've all seen ChatGPT or something like that and if you use that type of thing, what you learn very quickly is it's great as a generalist, but when you try and use something which is your specific area of expertise, it doesn't really work that well. And the reason it doesn't is because it hasn't got precise data in that area. It's got everything, but it's not precise enough in that area. So without the right data, you can't get AI to work very well. And if you're an advertiser, you need the right data to create the kind of experience that you or me as a consumer would expect of that specific brand. If you go to Nike to talk about trainers, you want the AI to be able to talk to you about trainers and not...
So tell us how Volco's software with this first party data gathering can help.
Well, first-party data, what I described to you there is third-party data. First-party data is the alternative. And the alternative is this. As an advertiser, I can collect data from you or me and you understand how it's being worked. So a really good sort of proxy for that is if you imagine going to a tailor, you're going to give up your measurements so that the tailor can make you a fitted suit or fitted clothing. And you understand that. They're measuring you. You know that the benefit you get, your clothes fit. If you think of the third-party equivalent of that, that would probably be someone going through your wardrobe without you knowing, measuring all your clothes up and then sort of giving you a fitted suit, but it's all happened in the background. So first-party data is where you have that transaction. You get some value out of it, you've got control over it, and you understand what's happened. So that's the alternative to third-party data. And advertisers are doing this increasingly, and this is what Voco does. When you come to a website or you see an advert or something like that, what Voco does is create what they call an experience. It's a reason for a dialogue to happen. And it might be something as simple as a spin the wheel game and provide your email in order to get the prize that you've won, or something a bit more nuanced where it's a board game, or some kind of engagement. And what Voco does is provide that software, that technology, in a very easy-to-use format which sits on the website. But much more importantly is it gathers the data which is being provided by that person in a transparent way, it adapts to what it's learned. So what that means is if I were to tell it my age and that I was interested in buying socks, the next thing that would happen would be related to what it had learned. And of course, that means that my experience is getting better. It means that I'm seeing the products that I want. The offers which are being given to me fit with the type of thing which I'm going to benefit from. Where it really suits advertisers is they can use that data to understand more and more of what their consumers are experiencing, what they want to buy from them, and therefore they can come back and provide something which is more appropriate and more valuable to me. So that might be adapting the website, it might be sending really targeted emails, it could be a whole host of different things which is coming from that data, which is from a transparent relationship, which is owned by the advertiser, not Google or Facebook or one of the others.
So, John, have we been walking with our eyes closed for the last 10 years through this storm of collection of data?
I suppose we have. We've kind of sleepwalked into this. And that's a combination of it's slowly built up and also the fact that actually you have to be very, very technical mind to understand the extent of this and what's going on. And that's what's stopping now. There's a big inflection point where Google have turned around and said they're going to remove cookies from their Chrome browser. There's a couple of others which has already done this, which is Apple and another smaller browser called Firefox have started blocking these third-party cookies. When that data gets switched off, in total, once Google do it too, that will be 90% of all the third-party cookie data will be blocked. But that doesn't mean that Google are still collecting the data. They're just blocking it from the advertisers under the guise of first-party data legislation. So as an advertiser, I'm exposed. As a consumer, that data use will continue. But Google would argue that's in a much more transparent relationship because they're not showing it to the advertisers, and you should understand that Google have it. So from a legislative point of view, they're doing the right thing. But from the point of view of an advertiser, it's a concern. And we absolutely walked into it increasingly, and the legislation should be there to keep us safe. And those changes are good for consumers now, but from an advertising point of view, it's a real structural shift, as I said, because in the past, that type of data was ubiquitous, very, very cheap. The best way to advertise for people was to buy your data for less than a penny and keep targeting you, throwing enough mud at the wall until you reacted. Now that's not the case. Now they need to really think about creating a dialogue with you and delivering to you a product in the way that you want it.
Yeah, and I've had situations where I'm pretty sure I haven't put anything into my phone, but I've spoken about a product, and then all of a sudden my feed on Facebook is giving me these advertisements. How does that happen?
Well, all of the tech companies say that they do not do that and use it for targeting advertising. And I have to say that there are other bits of data that you may well be giving up, which would allow that type of targeting to happen, like the location, which you can get to within 2 meters, like the time of day, like other things that you've browsed. Having said that, as my young daughter said to me, well, of course they're listening, because if you say, "Hey Siri," the phone wakes up. In fact,
the other thing, as a hack for that one, John and Kevin, there's in your settings on the iPhone normally or on Android, there is a specific Facebook app setting, and in there's use microphone, and you can switch that off, and it will not allow you. It will not then listen via the microphone. So you're setting your privacy settings. So it's a simple toggle switch, but. Yeah, I've had that before, and it is very freaky. You're talking about, I need a new air conditioning unit or a fan, and then 5 minutes later you're on Facebook scrolling, and sure enough, there's a fan in your local vicinity. It's bizarre.
Yeah, no, I was searching for air conditioners there a few weeks back, and then for literally the following week, pretty much every advertisement was an offer for an air conditioner from various advertisers. Now, what we're saying is, if I search for that on Facebook in the future, then I'm not going to get from various advertisers. I'm going to just get from Facebook specific advertisers, or what will happen?
Well, a couple of things will happen there. The first thing is you will still see those adverts, unfortunately, but the mechanism which allows you to be targeted will be different. So in the past, as an advertiser, I could get lots of information out about you and decide that you were the right person to target. In the future, in fact, right now, so much as in the future, Facebook are using the same information, but they're running it through their own machine learning algorithms to do the targeting on behalf of the advertiser. So that means the advertiser can't see the data. They just ask to target people likely to buy an air conditioner. Now, that means from the Facebook point of view, call me a cynic, but they optimizing their algorithms to maximize revenue for Facebook, not to make the most efficient advertising campaign for the advertiser. Certainly that's the advertiser's view and their concern. And it means they can't learn and refine their product just through going through data, just through what they learn from Facebook. Now, Facebook say, look, this is a privacy requirement. It's nothing else from their perspective. They can't feed all that data through because of the privacy requirements. Regardless of the nuance of that, regardless of whether that's self-serving or not, the impact is that if you are trying to find or target people for air conditioning, well, you have to buy a bit more advertising to get the same result. That means the supply and demand equation is changing, and you need to buy more to get the same result. And that drives up prices, and we've seen prices increase on Facebook as a result of that. So that's, from an advertising point of view, not a good thing. The second thing is, from an advertising point of view, you can't learn and iterate and change your products and change your targeting in that way from Facebook, because you can't extract the data in the same way. And you are exposed because Facebook understand that and you don't, unless you're collecting your own data, unless you're collecting your own first-party data. And that's what the Voco software platform does.
So when I click on that, right, I come across an air conditioning unit and it's nicely priced. It's what I want. And I click on it. And so now I click on it. Is that still within Facebook, or have I now moved to first-party data into the advertiser and the company?
So if you click on that and land on the advertiser's website, and it will clearly be the advertiser's website because you will see it's not Facebook. At that point, a couple of things should happen. The first thing is that the advertiser, the website, should ask for permission to use your data. And the second thing is, if you're using something like the Voco platform, then they will try and engage you further by understanding more about you at that point. Because what they want to do is say, okay, fine, we've got this generic product offering. Let's take you to the specific one. If we're talking about air conditioning, well, how cold do you want it to be? What size room are you trying to cool down? How long do you want it to last? Are you looking for quality, or are you looking for something that's cheap? All of those types of things are things that the advertiser can do to help you find the right product. So what they should be doing is engaging you in some form of dialogue where you understand what you're saying to them and how that's going to be used, and where they say, do we have permission to keep this data? Do you want us to chuck it away after this? And here are the benefits of doing either one of those two things. So it might simply be, look, give us your email address so we can continue to talk to you about this, and we'll give you a money off voucher in exchange for that. Something that simple sometimes. Or it might be something more nuanced to say, and depending on the product which we're talking about. I mean, if you talk about other websites, it might be that you might be drawn into one of the interesting ones actually is if you look at casual dining, for example, and you've got someone who might be engaging with a loyalty app while they're sitting at the table, and it might offer you the chance to play a game or give the kids a game to play while you're waiting for food. And again, often the exchange there is, okay, well, look, let's have a leaderboard. So we'll have your name and your email address to put you on the leaderboard. If you do well at this game, let's give you a voucher. And it's going through and collecting information all the way through that process. But the exchange is, well, we're giving you the game and the entertainment to do that. And also, it's very clear, you've given me this data. Normally, they have a portal where you can see what data is being collected as well. So all of that is a very clear and beneficial relationship there, and very different from you've been on Facebook for the last 5 years and it's looked at everything you've liked, everything you've said, everything you've dwelled on, and all those other things, and done something in the shadows where you don't really understand it to decide you might want an air conditioner. So that's the difference. And of course, the end result on the website that you've landed on is it should get you to the best product for you based on what you've told it. Whereas the end result for Facebook is, well, they've mined some really valuable data that they're going to sell to a million other advertisers.
Okay. So 3Radical approaches the advertising companies, I take it, or the actual individual companies?
Yes, so 3Radical's clients, advertisers. So there is a large global payments provider, which I can't mention, but there's only one or two of those, who are looking at the way in which they launch their new cards to bank customers and things like that, and they want to understand that, and they want to create a form of understanding around those customers, which enables...
So guessing, John, it's either Visa or MasterCard if there's only 2 or 3 of them, but carry on.
I couldn't possibly say, but... So yeah, and clearly what they want to do is encourage people to use the card the right way, encourage people to spend on the card, encourage people to take up the card in the first place. So they do that through understanding those people, understanding what they're likely to use the card for, understanding how much they should and shouldn't be spending as well, so that they can act responsibly, and all of those types of things. So that's a typical example of the customer that 3Radical have. They also work with the NSPCC, which is an interesting one, because NSPCC don't want to sell anything. They want a long-term relationship with their donors. So again, they want to understand, what sort of thing could you as a donor do that might help raise money for NSPCC. And it might be that you're into baking and you run a cake sale. It might be that at some point, they want you to leave some of your legacy to them, or they want to take you through that journey and understand where you are in life to do that. So it's building a long-term dialogue for the NSPCC, which is quite different from some of the other brands. I mean, there's another, a big US brand called Kaiser Roth, who actually have multiple different clothing brands across different countries, actually all speaking different languages, which has been a really complex deployment for 3Radical. And what they're doing there is really simple. It's a case of, okay, guys, we want you to come on the website. We've got lots of different clothing. What clothing are you looking for? And are you male? Are you female? Are you old? Are you young? So that the next time you come onto that site, they can say, okay, fine, we understand that you are, let's say, a 50-year-old male interested in StockX, for example. Then they present something to that which is relevant. And that's been really effective for those guys. I think they pushed up sales on one of their websites by 9%, revenue up by 9%. And they did that by understanding who you were, making an offer to you in exchange for your email address, and then remarketing to you, coming back via email saying, okay, fine, we've got this offer for you. And it got more engagement across the website, people coming back there. The alternative to that is probably that every time you go and buy clothing, you might go and run a Google search and end up going to lots of different places. But because of this ongoing dialogue, you realize that this brand understood you, was presenting stuff you were interested in at good value, so you kept going back. So that was the impact of
yeah. I wonder how different it is for men and women, because, I mean, for me, I want convenience and to know that I'm going back to the same place or whatever. You know, if I find something that's easy to use and it fits the bill, then I'll keep going back. Is it different for women, or is it the same, or it's an interesting concept, isn't it?
You've touched on a really interesting point there, Kevin, because this shift has caught people unawares, although we've, in theory, as an industry, seen it coming since 2018. It really has caught people unawares. And so the expertise in that area, the way to engage, is fairly limited. One of the really attractive things about 3Radical to us, when we looked at it, is that what they have created, almost as a byproduct of what they've done, is they've got this anonymized piece of data, which has tracked how people have engaged through everything they've done. So they've got over 1 billion, what they call engagement events, sitting on a database. And you can see, you know, someone clicked here, did this, did that, and we know that they're a male or female, and, you know, to all the questions that you would naturally ask about how to engage people. They've not exploited that yet. Now, my background is data analytics and machine learning. So as soon as I saw that, I thought, this is really interesting. And we are now in the process of manipulating that data set so that we can produce machine learning based AI products, which will do exactly what you're suggesting. So firstly, as an advertiser, you can understand that difference and that nuance, but also so that at a really early stage, when you see someone coming onto a website using the products that we're aiming to develop, as someone comes onto a website, you'll be able to see from their behavior at a really early stage, this is what they want. This is the type of experience that person wants. And so we can change it in a way which works best for them.
Yeah, and Big Brother is really watching us.
Well, that data set there is really key. And that Big Brother is not watching you there because we don't know who you are. And that's part of the point of GDPR. All we know is that people generally are behaving in this way, and we're able to analyze that. And if you're behaving in the way of a group of people, a cluster of people we've spotted, then it's likely the best next thing to do is X. So you're protected in that they're not going to come and find you, Kevin, as a result of what you've done, but they will know how people behave in a certain way. And so what you should see, therefore, is a better experience from going on the website as a result of the understanding, as opposed to a disturbingly dystopian one where people are coming knocking on your door.
But if I go back to that website, even before I've given them any more information, they then know it's me because it's first-party data.
Well, there are two views on that. So the first thing is, if we were in the world of third-party cookies, that technology which has just been or is in the process of being depreciated and blocked, then yes, absolutely, they would know it was you, because you've got a little bit of code sitting in every browser that you use, which has a unique number to you. So every time you come back, they'll say, Kevin was just reading the Sunday Times, for example, and we know he was just reading the Sunday Times, and now he's just come to a car website, for example. And also for the last 5 years, we've seen all of that stuff. So that was the cookie world. In the new world, with everything blocked, then they should be able to say, okay, there is someone here, perhaps coming from the same device, but they may not know it's you. So it could be anyone from your desktop computer. Or if you choose to identify yourself, and you'll see this more and more frequently now, websites asking you to log in. Can you log in with it? I mean, we're seeing it with publishers more and more frequently now, where it's still free often, but they do ask you to register and log in, and that's why, so that you can, if you like, self-declare yourself, and they know it's you. And increasingly, we'll see incentivization to do that. So we'll say, okay, yeah, you will see increasing websites saying, please join our loyalty scheme, like Nectar or anything else, and then please log into our loyalty scheme so that we can give you the right benefits, and then they know it's you.
So basically, what's happened is nearly all the companies that have advertised in the let's say the last 5 years have basically paid Google, Facebook, Apple, whoever has the data. They've been able to get contacts and get access to clients very cheaply. Now that effectively is either being blocked completely, or the prices of those are going up because Facebook, Google are now saying, no, everything has to be private, so we can't give you, the advertiser, all the information. So now the advertisers are saying, guys, you really need to collect your own data. You need to have your own data situation. So how does 3Radical then make its money from those clients?
So what 3Radical provides to those clients is a software platform which has a whole set of different techniques to engage people, which are already pre-created, if you like. It's like a library with about 50 different techniques. And as I said, that might be a game you can log on to. It might be as simple as a questionnaire or a voucher or a scratch card, all sorts of things like that, which can be really quickly deployed onto the website. You don't have to As an advertiser, you don't need to develop that yourself. That's the first thing it does. What it also then does is with this technology, as I said, it's adaptive. So what that means is at the first point it starts to talk to you as a consumer, it's learning, it's listening to what you say and reacting to what you say. So then the next step will take account of anything you've said to it. If you say, I'm only interested in shoes, the next step is, okay, we're only going to talk to you about shoes then. And that moves on. Now, in the background to that, and this is the sort of technically clever bit, which I won't bore anyone with the great details of that, but in the background to that, it's collecting that data and processing it as effectively as possible. It integrates with the advertiser's existing technology platforms, existing customer technology platforms, so that it can provide that information instantly to the platform. And if you've given the email on the website and that email exists on the technology platform as well, it will say, okay, fine, I know that you've been here before and you make you a gold star customer, so we're going to give you a better offer than that. It does that instantly. It might trigger an instant email from that technology platform or any of those types of actions. So we've got that complex integration there as well. Then on top of that, what we're able to do is understand how that interaction is happening, and also then turn around and say, okay, fine, based on 10 years worth of experience, based on the data we've already got and everything else, that scratch card experience or that jigsaw experience or that questionnaire actually is not as effective as it should be. So we're going to change it immediately. We don't need to redevelop anything because we've already got this library. We're going to change it immediately. And there it is. Now, the other element to 3Radical, which was hugely attractive to us as a business, was that actually that platform is incredibly robust. Everyone's concerned about being hacked and about data breaches, about all of that security. Now, we know that's, 3Radical, by the way, spent over £8 million on that platform, which is, when you look at the transaction for the business, we've got really good value there because we paid just over 1.2 million business. So £8 million on that platform. We know it's robust, not only because we've due diligenced it, but because of the type of clients who've done their own DD, like that big global payments provider and the biggest bank in Singapore, a bank called DBS, and various others. They've checked that, and that's something which is really significant because this type of technology is becoming enterprise level technology. We're talking to big global advertisers about it. You've got to have that strength and that robust platform underneath it to support it.
Yeah, John, just as a question then, was it an all paper deal for 3Radical?
So the deal that we did with 3Radical was a paper deal. So we valued the SPAC, the electric guitar SPAC, at £1.22 million, which is calculated based on the price that we suspended at 2.1p a share. The valuation of 3Radical, which we paid to them in electric guitar paper, was £1.28 million. So we had a pre-money value of about 2.5 million, well, exactly 2.5 million actually. And then we raised 2.2 million at 2.1p. So the post-money value of the business when we listed was £4.7 million. And of course, don't forget that 3Radical invested £8 million in developing the Voco platform and £12 million overall developing their business. So we know that we're at a really interesting valuation now when we've got a market cap of 4.7 billion.
Okay. Now, from the point of view of using this 1.2 million pounds of cash, obviously the vast majority of that is going to be used for helping 3Radical to grow much faster. I mean, I looked at the previous accounts. It's still loss-making in terms of where it's going, but how quickly do you see that gearing up? Because obviously you haven't bought it to lose money.
No, we haven't bought it to lose money. You're absolutely right. The great opportunity with 3Radical is they've spent a lot of time developing that tech platform, and they've also focused on forming relationships with resellers. So they have good reseller partnerships in the US, in APAC, and various other places. They've only just reached the stage where they're in a position to really capitalize on direct sales and really aggressive marketing, and they haven't done that yet. So a lot of that money is going to go into, for the first time, a really aggressive sales and marketing operation. So we're deploying just around about £1 million into sales and marketing. And that's something that, that's my background. That's something that I really enjoy doing. You take a business by the scruff of the neck, you go in, you sell it aggressively, and you make it successful. So we are expecting to grow that revenue substantially. And this year, because of the structural changes in that advertising market we talked about, because things are happening this year, then we really do see this as a land grab opportunity. There's not many other businesses aggressively playing in this first party data market at the moment. So we really want to get there quick.
And when you say growing aggressively, obviously you can't really put figures on it, but what are we talking about? Are you going to grow 1 times, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times? What is the hope? What is the goal?
We expect over the next 18 months to be between 2 and 3 times.
What other things can we expect from electric guitar? Because you talked about a much broader picture when you first spoke today, other than free radical and the first party information. So what else can we expect?
Well, it's been quite challenging as a SPAC because you may know, Kevin, we have to be very, very careful how far we advance conversations with other potential acquisition businesses, because if we take it too far, start making an offer, a letter of intent or anything like that, we would have needed to have included that in our prospectus for the current raise, which would have complicated things. So we've been very careful to hold back from that. But there are 2 or 3 businesses where it's been frustrating because we've had to say, not yet, not yet. So the first thing, the thing you can expect is a number of acquisitions there. There is one business there which is very well established in a particular vertical across UK and EMEA, but not in the US or APAC. So you can see with the global footprint that 3 Radical has, where they're in Singapore, they're in the US, and they're in the UK, we can immediately introduce that new business. If the acquisition is successful, we can immediately introduce that new business into those new markets. And the product they have is very, very complementary to 3 Radical as well. So then there are cross-sale opportunities in both directions as well. So that's one thing. The other thing, which is really significant, is this development of machine learning and AI. We haven't seen anyone else in 3 Radicals marketplace, in that first-party data technology marketplace, talking about data in the way that we're going to start to talk about it, because this is the other massive disruption now happening in the advertising market. Consumers are expecting brands to be able to talk to them like ChatGPT, but about their products. And we need to create the data, we need to manipulate data to underpin that for them so that they can do that. So that's the next big area as well. So we're looking very seriously at AI and machine learning. That type of thing is my background. I've had a number of businesses in that area. So you can expect to see developments along that space as well in the very near future.
An AI salesperson to close a deal would be awesome, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. And we've already started talking to existing clients of 3 Radical about that data set, which I mentioned to you about those billion events. And already they seem very, very interested in that. For obvious reasons, they need to understand how people engage in a way which is much more nuanced than the current understanding. And at the moment, very few businesses have that type of data.
Yeah. So basically what you're telling me is you've been busting to sign other deals, but you couldn't say a single word because you had to get it on the market.
Well,
so as Friday, you're now free to go.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, that is the case. We have been saying to people, we need to take a step back from this. And there is, there are 2 or 3 like that. And we are busting to go. Obviously, we've got to focus on getting 3 Radical moving in the right direction first. I've got to get that right. We've got to deploy the strategy there. And clearly, what we've explained to the market is what we intend to do with 3 Radical on its own. That's the right thing to do because that's how the business has been valued. So we need to deploy that plan. And of course, in parallel to that, then we're going to be having those conversations with those other businesses. And, we've got to think about timing. We've got to develop a track record for what we're doing and all of those other things. But we expect that, we're very ambitious and very aggressive in that space. So we would like to think that we will be able to do more than one more transaction in the next 12 months.
And John, what size is this potential marketplace? I mean, obviously we're not talking about the whole marketing world budget, which I think people would be amazed at how much money the companies spend, even with Facebook, with Google, with Apple, etc., etc. But from a 3 Radicals point of view, how big could this be?
Well, this first-party data marketplace is new and changing and emerging. But to help answer that question, one of the things that we did very early on, actually, was commission a company called Winterbury Group to analyse that market for us. Now, their estimate is that first-party data market was valued at around about £51 billion this year and is expected to grow at 8% compound annual growth rate over the next 4 or 5 years as well. My personal view is they've taken a very conservative view of what that market really means. What we're seeing on the market research side, if you ask chief marketing officers, what are your intentions, what are your priorities? 60% of them this year said their priority was first-party data and understanding how to use that and where to get it from. Now, there's 40% there that didn't say that. I think they just haven't woken up and smelt the coffee yet, quite frankly. Everyone should be really concerned about this. So it is a very big, fast-growing market. Advertising is, so big and changing so rapidly, it is very hard to get your head around it, and very hard to sit there and say, okay, fine, this company's little niche is worth X, because as I said, 800 billion and still growing. And that's just digital advertising, not advertising. I think advertising is over $1 trillion. So it's still growing rapidly, very hard. But, so our third party expert is saying 51 billion right now.
Yeah, we deal with another company called Now, and they're sort of moving down the line of sort of the supermarket type thing. But one of the most valuable assets they have is literally the billions of points of data that they have collected.
Yes.
On all households, mainly in the UK at the minute, but moving into the US as well. And that is going to be, I think, close to priceless in the future.
Well, there's an interesting business to look at, which is, 20 years old now. A business called dunnhumby. dunnhumby host all the data and do all the data analysis for Tesco Club Card. Now, there was a point at which Tesco were trying to sell dunnhumby, and they were valuing it at $2 billion. That was 4 or 5 years ago now as well. That gives you an indication, and that was then. That was before data analytics was as advanced as it is now. So that's an indication of the type of business that can get created. I knew dunnhumby; they were a competitor of mine, and they went from being very small to very big when they got the Club Card business, and that's all about first-party data. They really were the sort of forerunners to what's happening now.
Okay, so my last question then is, what can we expect from you guys over the next, say, 3 to 6 months? What's likely to be happening?
There's going to be a lot of news flow. We're expecting to be communicating to the market very frequently. I think it's most likely that the next piece of information will be about that AI product and where we're going with that. And then we hope to be talking about future acquisitions towards the middle and end of the year.
Very good. On that note, we'll say John Regan, CEO of Electric Guitar, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Kevin and Phil.
This podcast was brought to you by Roast PR Limited. If you would like to appear on a future episode of The Sunday Roast, please email admin@thesundayroast.net.